Will the LA Kings trade Phillip Danault? Does he want to be traded? How would that affect the Kings lineup, and what could they get in return? That and more on this edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, welcome to Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for the past 30 years. Also one of the co-hosts of Locked On NHL Game Night, a nightly podcast and YouTube show that wraps up the night in the NHL, and a passionate LA Kings fan for over 30 years. Well, the LA Kings were off on Tuesday. They'll be back in action Wednesday night in Seattle against the Kraken, coming off wins over the Blackhawks and the Mammoth. Kings sit in third place in the Pacific Division, where they've been most of the season, which would put LA in an automatic playoff spot. Now, have the Kings been as good as we would have liked? Probably not. Have they been as bad as some people seem to think they have been? Probably not. But the Kings have probably not played their best hockey yet either, especially when it comes to the power play, but still have had a fairly successful season to this point. Now, for those of you that maybe haven't been paying attention to some of the chatter out there about some trades, there is talk that LA Kings center Phillip Danault could be on the move. Now, we'll see, but this past week, we did have a couple of pretty significant NHL insiders kind of go on the record talking about this. Elliot Friedman and Frank Seravalli saying that multiple teams, have reached out to the LA Kings to inquire about Phillip Danault's availability. And it has been mentioned that maybe Phillip Danault is also looking for a change of scenery. Now, Danault has a partial no trade clause. He's got a list of 10 teams that he cannot be traded to. Now, are the Kings looking to trade him? Does he want to be traded? Is this about, just teams asking if he might be available? We'll try and answer a lot of those questions. But first, a little background on Phillip Danault. He has been the LA Kings third-line center for the past 4 seasons. He was signed as an unrestricted free agent before the 2021-22 season. He is a former first-round pick of the Chicago Blackhawks, but really turned into an NHL player of note while he was spending 5 seasons with the Montreal Canadiens, the team he was with before he came to LA. Now, in his first year as a King, Danault was a bit of a revelation. He had 27 goals, which he had never done before and has never really come close to doing since. So he set the bar high in terms of some people's expectations of him, but he's always been a very solid defensive center, pretty good in faceoffs, is thought of as a leader on a team. He's got playoff experience, but as far as his offense, it's never been his strong suit, but he's always been okay. But this year, not so okay. No goals and just 5 assists in 29 games. Last year, he had 8 goals and 35 assists. Those 35 assists were one off his career high. So while he is still a good defensive player, he's still pretty good at taking faceoffs, and those things are important. His lack of offense has been pretty glaring. So the first question you may ask is, if Phillip Danault is having such a bad year, why are multiple teams reportedly asking about getting him in a trade? Well, centers are valuable. They are hard to come by. And as I mentioned, while Phillip Danault has done not much offensively, he is still a very reliable defensive player. Pretty good in the faceoff circle. He can play on your penalty kill. Does have a lot of playoff experience, 62 career playoff games. That includes a trip to the Stanley Cup Finals with the Montreal Canadiens. And there's that old adage in pretty much every sport that a change of scenery can be just the thing to reinvigorate a player who is struggling. So are the Kings looking to trade Phillip Danault? Well, maybe not. But if teams are calling and asking about his availability, then GM Ken Holland should obviously do his due diligence and engage in conversation and ask them, what are you willing to give up? What are you looking to do? I mean, that's his job. He may not specifically be looking to trade Phillip Danault, but he would be a fool not to engage in conversation if teams are calling and using teams against each other. If one team's offering this, you tell the other team, I've got this offer on the table. You want to make it better or whatever. So I don't know that Ken Holland has been calling teams saying, do you want Phillip Danault? I don't know. Or is he just, getting these calls and doing his job? So we do know that the Kings have obviously struggled on the power play. And if you're looking at what the Kings' needs are, I think they could certainly use another forward to help out on the wing, especially with the power play. Andrei Kuzmenko to this point has not been able to replicate what he did last season. And as we mentioned with Phillip Danault, a good depth center is something that several teams are looking for. So I do wonder if maybe the Kings feel like Alex Laferriere could potentially be a suitable replacement for Phillip Danault. Now, the team has experimented with Laferriere playing center, and I think they've liked what they've seen in a very small sample size. But, and I thought, maybe after this season, depending on what the Kings do in the playoffs, but let's just say it's a similar story to what we've seen over the last few years. Then the Kings have to make a decision on what to change. And, Phillip Danault is well paid. We'll talk more about kind of where he ranks as far as the highest paid third line centers around. Like I said, Alex Laferriere is a young player. He's on the rise. I think he is growing in confidence and experience. And I think the coaching staff is believing more and more in what he can do. So I thought maybe after this season, he could be looked at as a replacement for Phillip Danault. Maybe you trade Phillip Danault in the offseason, free up some of that cap space, and now you've got Laferriere in there, and we'll see how he does. But for him to, if they trade Danault and they have thoughts of maybe Laferriere filling that role now, that is asking a lot of a guy who has very little experience at that position. Now, offensively, certainly he would perform better than Phillip Danault, but we're talking about playoff hockey. Alex Laferriere playing in that position, being asked to play defense and being asked to win key faceoffs at times, possibly. I mean, that would be asking a lot. I like Alex Laferriere a lot. I love how he's improving, but that would be putting him in a very, very tough position, I would think. Now, is Phillip Danault looking to be traded? That has been floated out there. I don't think he's demanded any kind of a trade, but perhaps Ken Holland had a talk with him and said, hey, just want to let you know that there are teams asking about you. You obviously have this 10-team no trade list. Are you interested in maybe going somewhere else? And maybe Phillip Danault said in the right situation, yeah, I might be willing to go somewhere else and get a fresh start. I would be surprised if Phillip Danault is unhappy in LA. This isn't a player who has been benched multiple times or had his ice time drastically reduced. Now, there was one game where he started on the fourth line, and there was a moment in practice recently where either he asked for a day off or the team suggested maybe take a day off, try and, hit the reset button, change up the routine a little bit, and see where it goes from there. There was a game recently where he played very, very well, and Jim Hiller made a concerted effort to get him out on the ice in key moments, even put him out on a power play late in the game, doing things to try and get him going. So I don't sense, or I haven't ever felt like Phillip Danault hasn't been given every opportunity to get it going this season. I can't understand any reason why he would be unhappy with the organization or the role he's been playing. It's the same role he's been playing since he got here on that third line center spot. So I can't see it from that perspective. But maybe it is possible that, again, he's been asked, hey, teams are asking, just trying to get your level of, what you're thinking. And, and then does Danault say, absolutely not, I love it here? Or does he say, yeah, maybe it's time for something new? I don't know. Those are conversations that we're not a part of, but that talk might get out. Certainly an agent might leak something like that. We'll talk more about that in a moment. But that's what's out there right now, that maybe Phillip Danault is not demanding a trade, but is open to possibly listening to other opportunities. So if Phillip Danault were to be traded, where would he likely go, and how would that affect the Kings roster now and in the future? We'll get more into that next here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. The holidays are amazing, but they can also get overwhelming fast. Travel, gifts, parties, year-end expenses. It's really easy to lose track of your money this time of year. And that's exactly why Monarch has become such a game changer for me. If you want to keep your finances under control this holiday season, you need to be using Monarch. Rated Wall Street Journal's best budgeting app of 2025, Monarch is an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, simple dashboard. The holiday spending season can become a lifesaver. You can see exactly what's left in your gift and travel budget in real time. Monarch makes money check-in simple, just a minute or two each week, and you're completely up to speed. It's great for couples, shared dashboards, shared goals, and fewer, wait, how did we spend that money? Conversations. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL at monarch.com in your browser for half off your first year. That is 50% off your first year at monarch.com with the code LOCKEDONNHL. Hey, thank you for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You've already are living as an everydayer. Now you can take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On LA Kings with no interruptions, member-only Discord access, and more. All for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Check the link in the show notes to learn more if you're watching on YouTube or in the podcast as well. All right, so I mentioned the LA Kings not exactly getting what they are paying for with Phillip Danault. Again, yes, give him credit for his defensive skills and his faceoffs and his leadership and all that kind of stuff. But he is making $5.5 million per season. And so I wondered, where does that rank in the NHL? And I decided, well, I'll just look at the Pacific Division. And I think Phillip Danault is the highest paid third line center in the Pacific Division. Now, Tomas Hertl of the Vegas Golden Knights is listed as Vegas's third line center, and he's making $6.7 million per season. But his time on ice says he's actually the Golden Knights' second line center. And he's also their leading goal scorer as well. So maybe on paper they have him as the third line center, but the reality is he's their second line center. So Phillip Danault is being paid the most of any third line center in the Pacific Division. I would guess that he's probably amongst the highest paid third line centers in the NHL. Just looking at some of the other third line centers in the Pacific Division, the lowest paid guy is someone named Max Sasson, who plays for the Vancouver Canucks. He's making the league minimum $775,000, and he's got 5 goals and 7 points this season. So he's outperforming Phillip Danault offensively, and this is a guy who's probably a marginal NHL player at best. And again, it's not always all just about the offense, but in that situation, yeah, he's getting paid the most and producing the least at this point, which is why teams have reached out and wondered if maybe he's interested in a change of scenery. Maybe the Kings are looking to send him somewhere else. Now, you might be wondering if the Kings were trading Phillip Danault, could they use the cap space they have now and maybe the cap space they're going to save, or they could potentially save from getting rid of that $5.5 million per year to go out and get one of those big time centers to come in here and really make the Kings down the middle formidable. I don't see that happening. I mean, if you're talking about a guy like a Ryan O'Reilly or a Nazem Kadri, those are guys who also have, trade protection and probably a say into where they're going to go. Are the Kings going to move Anze Kopitar to the third line center position in his final year? Probably not. And when you look at the teams that those types of players are on, Ryan O'Reilly's in Nashville, Nazem Kadri's in Calgary, those are teams that are most likely going to be getting into a rebuild because they're not having very good seasons. So they're looking for, in return, high-level prospects or high-level draft picks. And the Kings really don't have, well, they don't have those kinds of draft picks for sure, with where they've been picking coming up. Now, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years down the road, maybe they're in a position where they are picking high in the draft. But, teams are not going to trade for, that uncertainty. And then there's just not the high level draft picks the Kings have, I don't think, to be able to get some players like that. So I don't see that being a realistic possibility. Is there, like I said, I think the Kings' biggest need is someone to help on the power play. So is there someone out there that is someone who's been proven on the power play in the past that maybe is having an off season that they could swap for Phillip Danault? Not sure about that, but that seems to me where the biggest need is. Now, some of the teams that have been mentioned in a lot of various articles that are interested in Phillip Danault, it's a curious list. You've got the Canucks, the Oilers, the Devils, and the Canadiens were the teams that I saw listed the most. Now, it is interesting that Vancouver, New Jersey, and Detroit are all pretty preoccupied with this Quinn Hughes situation. If you don't know, Quinn Hughes, an elite defenseman in his prime in Vancouver. They're looking to start moving pieces. He has a year left on his contract after this season, and then he'll be an unrestricted free agent. So the Canucks could get a lot in return for a guy like Quinn Hughes. Both of his brothers play in New Jersey, and apparently Detroit is really interested in him as well. And those three teams are all reportedly interested in Phillip Danault, or at least New Jersey and Detroit are. But again, I think they're so immersed in this potential Quinn Hughes trade that Phillip Danault is not on the front burner for those teams. They've got much bigger fish to fry trying to figure out what's going on with Quinn Hughes. So I can't see the Oilers. I know that Ken Holland just came from there as their general manager. I assume he still has relationships with people over there. You'd rather not trade a player, even, somebody like Phillip Danault, who, even if he were to go to a new place and it would reinvigorate him, he's still not going to, be a big time goal scorer or anything like that. But you'd rather not trade a player in the division that you could come back to see again, unless it was just an offer you couldn't refuse. So I can't see Edmonton being in the mix. The one that makes too much sense is Montreal. He formerly played for the Canadiens. He is French Canadian. I would be willing to bet just about anything that the Canadiens are not on Phillip Danault's no trade list. So if I were to bet on Phillip Danault going to another team, it would be Montreal. You've got Montreal and Detroit, historic franchises, desperate to try and get back in the playoffs. So the problem is, are those teams looking to subtract from their roster because they're looking to get into the playoffs? Montreal just made it last year. Detroit looking to get back in. And you look at the Kings, they're in a win now mode. So they're not looking to get prospects back or draft picks. They're looking for someone that can help them on their roster now. So that will be interesting to see if they have any players like that could help out. Now that maybe the Kings, again, maybe they trade Phillip Danault, and if they got assets in return, maybe they could flip those assets to try and get somebody that could help them on the power play. We shall see. But I've been a bit surprised by the trade talk around Phillip Danault, to be honest with you, because of what the situation is involving the Kings this year. They are in a win now mode. And to me, trading an experienced, playoff proven, defensively sound, good face-off taking player doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And I get his offense has been awful this year. But again, if the Kings are all about the playoffs, Phillip Danault was good in the playoffs last year. He had 2 goals and 6 assists in 6 games. He played defense against Connor McDavid at times. You want to be strong down the middle in the playoffs. I don't know that trading Phillip Danault, and of course it always depends on what you're getting in return or what the plan is on, replacing him. But I don't see that being the right move for the Kings, especially considering how the Kings win hockey games. They win it with defense. And Phillip Danault is still, with all the warts he has around his offense, is still a really good defensive center. Again, can win faceoffs, plays defense, and has experience in the postseason. I'll be surprised. I'll be surprised if Phillip Danault actually does get moved, but we'll see. It is an interesting conversation, no doubt. Okay, we do have a rain report from our fan correspondent. Tell you the Ontario Reign playing some good hockey right now. We'll get you updated on that next here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlighted moment. Live betting is the best when the game starts to shift. A quarterback gets hot, a defense tightens up, or momentum shifts after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props update as the player heats up. You can bet who will score the next touchdown, what will happen on the next drive, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action as the season heats up, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. We do have a rain report from our rain correspondent, Don in the San Fernando Valley. He's going to give us an update on what happened this weekend, and he's going to do it in detail because he's actually watching these games. Unlike me, who would just talk about a box score and give you some stats, which I'm actually going to do here in a moment because the Reign did play a game on Tuesday night. But we are going to start this past Saturday, December the 6th, the first of 2 straight games for the Ontario Reign against the Calgary Wranglers. And Don says that the Reign imitated the Kings' 6-goal explosion on the same night. Venus Copley saved 19 of 20 shots and was very solid. Normally defenseman and number 1 D-man, Kirill Kirsanov, he scored 2 goals. The first on a hard, low shot through traffic that looked totally legit. The second was a hard but routine-looking shot from the far left boards that somehow found its way through several players and looked rather lucky. Kirsanov was selected the game's number 1 star. The Reign's offense flowed and puck movement got better as the game progressed. The Reign scored the last 6 goals of the game. Cohen Zemer set up newcomer left winger Nikita Alexandrov's first goal as a Reign player on a nice cross-ice pass. Alexandrov, who was acquired in the trade that sent Akil Thomas to St. Louis, is of similar age and size as Thomas, but has somewhat better offensive numbers. He seems to be fitting in very well. Sunday, December the 7th, the Reign win a tight one in overtime. Reign held Calgary to just 16 shots in regulation, none in overtime. The Reign's number 1 goal was scored close in, Corey Perry style by Andre Lee after Kenny Connors took the puck from Jared Wright, went around the net, did a spin move on the left side to gain room, and put the puck right on Lee's stick for the score. Getting sent down to Ontario this year has done wonders for Andre Lee's overall game, but especially his offense. Lee has Lee been taking secret lessons from Corey Perry about playing close to the net? Lee is currently the Reigns' leading scorer with 8 goals and 17 points in 21 games. Martin Chromiak is the number 2 scorer with 16 points. Kenny Connors leads the team plus minus. He's a plus 16. His line mate Jared Wright is second at a plus 13. Newcomer Nikita Alexandrov has some great puck-moving shifts. He seems to be fitting right in on that top unit. Backup goalie Isaiah Seville looks steady. He saved 15 of 16 shots, making at least several very tough stops among them. The overtime goal was scored by Joe Hicketts with an assist from Cole Gutman and Angus Booth. Booth seems to be playing at least top 4 minutes like last year, or perhaps even top pair minutes. It's hard to tell exactly because the AHL does not list minutes played in their box scores, but Booth is clearly playing a lot, and the recent team's defensive results speak for his effective play. And that was Don in the San Fernando Valley giving us some detail on the Ontario Reigns' 2 wins over this past weekend. Now, we will probably hear, I'm sure, from Don regarding the Reigns' latest victory, and that was Tuesday night as they scored 6 goals again, a 6-3 win at home over the Texas Stars. As Don mentioned, Nikita Alexandrov appears to be fitting in nicely. He had 2 goals in this game against Texas, numbers 5 and 6 on the season. And Kenny Connors had 2 goals as well, also numbers 5 and 6 on the year. Martin Chromiak gets his 8th, and Francesco Pinelli his 4th as well. The Reign never trailed in this game. Phoenix Copley in net stopped 18 of 21 shots in getting the victory. So Ontario is now 14-7-1 on the season. They have moved into second place in the Pacific Division, and they've got 29 points. Reign are riding a 3-game winning streak, and they've also won 7 of their last 10 games. Up next for the Ontario Reign, Friday and Saturday, they are on the road against the first place team in the Pacific Division. That is the Colorado Eagles. So a showdown of the top 2 teams in the Pacific coming up this weekend. I did also want to mention, mark it on your calendar, the upcoming World Junior Championships will get going on December 26th in Minnesota. We do know that the 2 top prospects for the LA Kings will be playing for Team Canada. That, of course, is forward Liam Greentree and goaltender Carter George. 2 Kings prospects are on the U.S. World Junior preliminary roster. That is Kings' number 1 draft pick from this past draft, defenseman Henry Bustevich. Also forward Brendan McMorrow on the USA World Junior preliminary roster as well. So hopefully those guys will get to be on the team and take part in that tournament, which is going on in Minnesota starting on December the 26th. Hey, thanks for tuning in to Locked On LA Kings. Make sure you subscribe and follow so you get all the latest episodes. Did Locked On LA Kings make your Spotify Wrapped? If so, prove it on social media. To secure a free month of our brand new Everydayers Club, just tag our national Locked On Podcast Network account on any social platform, and we'll drop you a code. Be one of the first to join the Everydayers Club and get your favorite show ad-free and exclusive access to the members-only Discord channel. For you Everydayers, those of you that listen and watch Locked On LA Kings every day, our next show will be following the Kings-Kraken game in Seattle on Wednesday night. We'll have a complete wrap-up of that game. As always, at the end of the week, we'll have our fan feedback show. If you want to sound off on that, talk about anything involving Phillip Danault trade, the email address is lockedoneddie@gmail.com, EDDIE. And you can always comment if you're watching on YouTube in the comment section. We'd love for you to stay interact with the show on social media, X, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We're at Locked On LA Kings. I'm Eddie Garcia. Thank you for listening and watching this episode of Locked On LA Kings, part of Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you next time. And as always, go Kings, go.